experience there, had some experience with employment discrimination cases, and then now that I'm in the private sector side of things, I get an opportunity to work with people that have experienced discrimination in the workplace. To try to get them some justice in that arena through the court system, through negotiating with the employers. And a big part in terms of resolving these cases, at least that I try to work on, is not just addressing it for that particular individual, but also trying to create an environment where those companies then do better going forward. It's not just a one-time situation. They deal with it, they take care of that person and move on and continue doing what they've been doing. You really want to try to address it more in a systemic way so that changes are made, so that the people coming after them, the people that are still there, don't experience the same problems. Because it's just really remarkable when you hear these stories and you see what people are going through when they just trying to go to work every day to make a living and feed their families, and having to go through this type of stress is really disruptive. It makes it hard for them to do and keep their jobs, and then that stress comes home with them. It affects their home life, and it really becomes pretty overwhelming for people.
Right. And, what I will say, that particularly, Stan, when I think about, obviously you've done some stuff around employment, very difficult, obviously, for discrimination to be proven, and a lot of people just don't want to take it on because it's so difficult. But then we were talking about this a police chief that was fired because one of his officers turned him in for being racist. But the mayor sends a letter to the newspaper thanking this guy for his great service. And you think, I'm a person that believes that if a police chief or officers that are found to be, racist or discriminatory, whatever, that there should be an automatic review of every single arrest that they've ever made. But when you start having a police chief be a racist, I think that, there should be an instant automatic review of every type of incident that was based on race, every lawsuit that was
every one
filed,
of them
that was dismissed. All of that should be brought up. So why is that important difficult for things like that to be proven from your point of view?
Well, a lot of it is how our system works.
Yes.
You have a jury. Actually, I just finished a case in southeastern Wisconsin, discrimination in a plant. And part of my conversation with my client was it's better for us to try to resolve this before we have to go to court, because it will eventually be her in federal court, where the juries are almost always white. And it'll be her word against her employers and the other employees. So even if we have a great case, even if we have the ability to present that case properly, it still may not be believed or received by that jury, and that's really all that matters. So you have that challenge going in, and it's not suggesting that people are sitting there being overtly racist or intentionally racist or malicious. They're coming from a different perspective. So when my client says these things occurred, they may say, well, but there's explanations for that, or what did you do to bring that about, or those types of things. So it is difficult to prove. When you were talking about and we've been seeing this, I would say, I heard someone mention what's happened since the election of President Obama in terms of the climate generally. We've seen a lot of this since then. This idea that if you're paying too much attention to things that are happening to black men or black people, people start to get nervous and they start to push back. One of my favorite movies is A Soldier Story. And there's a line in there where the guy says, it's never, I'm paraphrasing, it's never a good thing to pay too much attention to the death of a Negro under mysterious circumstances in this part of the country. It makes people nervous and uneasy. And that movie is based in World War II. And I think when you see the reaction to the concept of Black Lives Matter and things like that, it seems like that sentiment is still not just alive and well, but making a real resurgence. Why do you people want to keep talking about this? Let it go, move on. So I think that is a big part of it too. And I think the fear is kind of like even with something like global warming. If we acknowledge that there's a problem, then we have to do something about the problem. And that might mean changing how we do things. And people don't like to change how they do things, especially when they're benefiting from how things are being done. So I think that's a big part of the challenge of getting past some of these obstacles that we're seeing And I think, the election of the president, I think, has almost given permission for some people to come out of the woodwork.
Right.
With some 50-year-old stuff
Mm-hmm.
that is now kind of joining us in the 21st century, and hopefully will be leaving us. Soon.
Yeah, I'll tell you, Aaron, one of the scariest stories when I was still working a job, which is why I had to start my own company, is I was working in Minnesota, and I was working as a collection agent, and it was after Louisiana, after the flood in Katrina.
Oh, yeah.
Katrina flood. And you all may have seen some of these pictures, but there was a picture of, they had a picture of a caveman carrying like a cane, a big club. And then a picture of a guy, like a black guy, and they put this caveman face on and said like, prehistoric man, modern day man. Mm-hmm. And I'm working in the office, and all these guys, everybody in the office is walking past my desk, and they go back and they look at this thing and laugh. And I mean, these are guys that tell me to smoke cigarettes. I would smoke with them, we'd go to lunch with them, and nobody ever said, hey, Wood, go take a look at that. Mm-hmm. And when I went back there, I mean, I could get my heart to race right now. I didn't know what to be. Terrified, angry. It's like they're laughing about this behind my back and know not to share it with me. Mm-hmm. And I called an attorney. His last name was Davis, too, in Minnesota. Mm-hmm. And he said that, yeah, Haywood, you got to file a complaint. And it takes about 3 complaints. And I was literally 300 pounds and terrified in this office. And it's hard to deal in that. And so the point to me is that I can understand it's hard to be in a workplace, and the work that you do is really valued, because I was in a place terrified and needed somebody like you and needed the laws to be on our side. So,
absolutely. Yeah.
So you also asked me kind of the other side of what we do, and that goes to hopefully addressing these things before there's damage done to people or they need a lawsuit.
Right.
So what we try to do is work on the front end with companies to help them create an environment where their workplace is healthy, so that whoever they bring in to their workplace, including employees, customers, are going to feel comfortable. When I sit down with the leadership of these companies that I work with, we talk about what their market looks like now in terms of customers, what it's going to look like in 30 years. Mm-hmm. The reality is, if you're a company in Madison and your company is so lacking in diversity that you can only work with white Americans, in 30 years, your customer base is going to be, half of what it is now. And that's not sustainable for anybody. So it's necessary, not for just social justice reasons, although this is a social justice issue. Mm-hmm. It's necessary for business reasons, for companies to figure out how to start doing this. So I get to work with the companies who have at least crossed that hurdle. They're not having the debate about whether we should do this, why we shouldn't do this. They know that they need to do it, and they're trying to figure out how to do it. Mm-hmm. And most of them recognize, okay, this isn't what we do. Like, for me, if I have an electrical problem in my house, I'm not the one to fix it. It will not end well. So you go get someone that has that expertise. Right. Mm-hmm. So they call me, we come in, got a great group of consultants working with us. So if it's necessary to come in, we have a full range of services that start with an assessment and go all the way to training and recruiting, bringing people in. One of my favorite things to do is we do executive coaching for executives of color.
Yes.
So if you're bringing someone in, we want our clients to have a plan for that person before they even get there. Mm-hmm. We want the environment to be prepared so they'll be received well. We want to have coaching available. We want to have set up community for them, whether it's a church, a mentor, a coach specifically for through our company for them to work with. So that we're not just bringing them there, dropping them in, and expecting them to succeed in what's usually a pretty not hostile environment, but foreign environment for them. We have a plan to get them there, and so that's really what we do with companies. A lot of times they'll start the conversation not thinking they need training, but through the first couple of discussions, they'll realize, wow, we've got good people here. They're not malicious. They're not outwardly racist, but they have not been exposed. Mm-hmm. So it's necessary for us to do some cultural competence training, to do some implicit bias training, to get those things taken care of so that when we bring someone in, they have a good experience. Because the worst thing you can do is bring someone into a bad environment. Yeah. They have a bad experience. They leave. They tell everyone how bad it is to work there, and then you have a real difficult time recruiting after that.
especially right in professional environment like
Right.
attorneys and accountants, where it's a small niche market. You don't want to get a bad reputation there.
Right. I mean, law firms are the toughest place in the entire city of Madison. I think this is a couple-year-old information. I know a few years ago there was one equity partner in the entire city of Madison in terms of law firms with more than 10 people.
Mm-hmm.
That means one partner, the whole city. There may be two or three now,
Yeah.
but it's still in 2015 in the capital city of a state. Outrageous that that's what happens. But if you look at the track record, I mean, I was at a big firm at one point too.
Mm-hmm.
The track record is people of color come into big firms, they're there for a relatively short period of time, and they leave. And when they get together and have conversations, they all have very similar experiences in that environment. It's
Mhm.
a tough environment for everyone who's there, but I think most people you would talk to would say for people of color in that environment, it's an even more difficult environment, and the results kind of bear that out.
Yeah.
Great, great point. And I had a niece that came up to UW to be a student many years back, and received one a few of the highest scholarships that they offer. Just very highly intelligent young lady. She was here for one semester, and she called me and she told me she was transferring, and I was so disappointed that she was transferring because I wanted her to, I was trying to help UW, bring more diversity. But
Mhm.
she said it was just not enough diversity for her. Just didn't feel it. And so when I think about, particularly when you talk about, a CEO, a brand new CEO coming in the company, and working with staff that are not ready to accept his existence. We know what happened when, obviously when the president was elected. Prior to that, many people, and I say young people, this country is not ready for a black president.
Mhm.
He's here now. He's doing what he has to do. And when I hear about your company, in essence, it sounds like you guys get these people in these positions and help broaden their scope, help them understand some of the anticipated issues that may come. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's really what we try to do. And when you're dealing with business people, it's important that they understand the business case, because if you're a for-profit organization, most of what you do is to maximize profit, and your shareholders will be very disappointed in you if you don't.
Mm-hmm.
If you went to your shareholders and said, we really want to do this because this is the right thing to do, they may all think that's great. And that is a fine reason to do anything because it's the right thing to do.
Right.
But if you go and say, this is the right thing to do and this will make our bottom line better, you're most likely to get a lot more people on board. And it's important when you're doing these things that you have as many people as possible that are supporting what's going on. Because it's not always easy. Said change is tough for people. So it's important that you have that kind of buy-in.
Right.
When we sit down, we go to companies for the first time and we'll do a training, we insist that the top executive is present and stays and participates.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you have all the leadership in the room, as soon as that CEO says, I've got to take a call, and they leave and they're gone for a half hour, that tells everybody else in the room that this wasn't the priority that everyone was saying it is. So that's something that we try to emphasize. It's always going to be key that the executive sets the tone and maintains it.
Awesome. So are you hopeful? Are you hopeful what you see out there? Do you feel like corporations are getting on board and they care?
So what's interesting about the corporate world is way ahead of government, way ahead of higher education because of the business case. So I'm definitely hopeful, and I'm actually hopeful that the corporate world, ironically, will be the ones leading the way on this because they have the most significant incentive, which is profit.
Right.
Yes.
And that is going to continue to drive them to do this, because the reality is, if you don't, you're going to lose from a business standpoint. Someone else in a place like Madison, where we've seen the growth of the Latino population, if you're in business and you're not figuring out a way to make the new Latino members of this community customers for your business, you're missing out on all kind of money.
Right.
Yeah.
So whether the people feel like they want to or not, business is going to dictate that they go do that. So I'm very hopeful for that reason. And I'm also hopeful that when people are exposed to these things, when we have these cultural competence trainings, you can see light bulbs coming on
All
all
the
over the
time.
place
Yes.
as people are hearing things, and they realize, well, things I might have said in the workplace when I thought I was just being funny
May have
were
hurt
hurtful to
somebody
people.
feel.
And then they realize what would it be like for me if I came to work every day and was different from everyone else there,
Right.
and people that were saying things that they thought were funny but actually were insulting to me and they didn't know it. And they realized how difficult that would be.
So Stan, tell us how to reach you, because the time is, man, it goes fast when you're having fun, and you see Aaron and I here like, what's wrong with these guys? They had to go to the bathroom or something. It's time for us to go. But tell us how to reach you and how people can find out more about what you do.
Well, the best way to reach me is through our website, which is davisgroupwi.com.
Okay.
And I can be emailed directly at sdavis@davisgroupwi.com.
And you work around the world, or just in Madison?
We work anywhere where this kind of work is needed and someone wants us to go there, but generally it's closer to home in Madison and in Wisconsin. Some of our best work right now has been with companies in western Wisconsin where they have very little diversity, but some companies that are doing big things and they want to be more marketable around the country and around the world.
Thank you.
And Stan, I do want to share, we won't put the name out there, but I do want to share that we had someone listening that came in and did a walk-in donation because they feel that this topic is so important. So thank you for that, because obviously what your group is doing and what you're talking about, there's people that are listening, see and feel that this is an important topic that needs to be further discussed. So thank you guys for what you're doing with the Davis Group.
Thank you for having me.
Welcome.
So the time is 8:57. We're going to take a quick station break. We'll be right back. This is